Have you ever met someone who seemed distant, maybe even cold, and yet you felt there was more behind their silence than just disinterest? What if that distance wasn't a flaw, but a carefully built shield? In this video we step into the quiet pain of those who seem hard to love, not because they lack emotion, but because somewhere along the way they learned emotions aren't safe. With the insights of Carl Jung, we'll explore how unhealed wounds shape identity, how silence can become survival, and how awareness can open the path to healing. Stay with me till the end, because what we often label as difficult is sometimes just someone still figuring out how to survive. And before we dive deeper, take a moment to subscribe to Deep Psyche, where we uncover the unseen, the unspoken, and the forgotten truths of the soul. Let's begin. Some people don't look broken, they look composed, in control, maybe even emotionally detached. But often what we call indifference is the psyche's silent call for safety. Because pain that isn't faced doesn't vanish, it transforms. Jung said unprocessed suffering slips into the unconscious, shaping how we see ourselves, others, and the world. You don't always hear it in words, but you see it in patterns. Withdrawal, hypervigilance, emotional numbness. These aren't flaws, they're defense mechanisms, not who someone is, but who they had to become. The psyche doesn't build these defenses with reason, it builds them through necessity. Someone may appear aloof or overly analytical not because they don't want connection, but because connection once meant pain. Jung called these internal defense systems complexes, emotional patterns born from trauma. They aren't weaknesses, they're protections, automatic, unconscious, often invisible, even to the person wearing them. The deeper the wound, the more seamless the armor, especially when the pain came from places meant to be safe. Love, family, trust. Vulnerability starts to feel dangerous, so people build walls, detachment, skepticism, self-reliance. Not because they don't crave closeness, but because closeness once hurt them. The unconscious mind becomes a gatekeeper, scanning even peace for signs of danger. Over time, these defenses harden into the persona, the social mask Jung described. And for many, that mask becomes permanent. They seem strong, capable, even admirable. But underneath is someone who learned that being seen can hurt. The longer the mask stays on, the harder it becomes to take off. Healing doesn't ask us to rip it away, it gently invites us to loosen it, to let the soul breathe through the cracks. But not all pain builds walls. Sometimes, it opens other doors. Some people who've suffered become deeply sensitive. They feel everything. They read silence, tone, micro-expressions. They comfort instinctively, because they remember what it's like to hurt in silence. Jung called them the wounded healers, those who help others because they carry wounds of their own. But this gift carries a shadow. When empathy isn't grounded in self-awareness, it turns into projection. They care for others to avoid facing their own pain. They become the listener, the strong one, the emotional anchor, and in the process, they disappear from their own story. Overgiving without boundaries becomes self-erasure. Jung would say real healing begins when the healer turns inward, when they give to themselves the love they so freely offer others. That's when compassion becomes wholeness, not quiet sacrifice, but a conscious act of self-care. If this speaks to you, share this video with someone who might need it. Now there's one more layer we need to uncover, because sometimes the past doesn't stay behind us. It shows up in how we think, love, and feel. Some griefs have no name. They're not about what we lost, but about what never arrived. The safety that didn't come, the love that wasn't given, the apology that never came. These are invisible losses. And when unspoken, they echo through the present. Jung said, "What we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. That fate often appears as repeating patterns, emotional distance, chronic overthinking, a life spent analyzing instead of feeling. The mind becomes a refuge, control becomes a shield." But Jung also warned, insight alone isn't healing. Knowing why you hurt doesn't heal you. Feeling does. For those deeply wounded, feeling is what they've been taught to avoid. But healing begins when those feelings, grief, fear, rage, are allowed to rise, to move through the body, to be named, to be held. Grief, when honored, becomes a doorway. It won't erase the past, but it gives it a place. The scar remains, but it stops bleeding. And when pain is named, felt, and accepted, it no longer controls the future. The psyche softens. The mask loosens. And life is no longer lived in reaction to the past, but in connection to the present. So if someone seems hard to love, look again. It's rarely about who they are, it's more